My mother sent a mass text canceling my gender reveal because my sister was getting divorced for cheating. I exposed the truth and uninvited them. I, 31F, was left at a hospital as a newborn. My parents had been trying to have a child for over a decade without success when they decided to adopt. According to my dad, when they first saw me, they knew I was meant to be their daughter. The adoption process took months. Interviews, home inspections, paperwork, but they persevered. I grew up as their only child for several years, surrounded by their love and attention. My paternal grandparents embraced me from day one. They celebrated my birthdays, included me in family traditions, and treated me exactly like their other grandchildren. My father's siblings and their children also welcomed me without question. We spent holidays together, went on camping trips, and maintained close relationships even as we grew older. My maternal grandparents were a different story. They never accepted me as part of the family. During my first Thanksgiving with the extended family, everyone received personalized place cards at the dinner table, except me. When I asked my grandmother where I should sit, she pointed to a small folding chair in the corner of the dining room, separate from everyone else. My dad immediately picked me up, grabbed our coats, and we left. My mother stayed behind, saying she would talk to her parents. When we got home, Dad explained that some people have narrow views about what makes a family. He promised that no matter what anyone else thought, I would always be his daughter. The next day, Mom returned and assured me her parents would come around eventually. They never did. When I was 8, my mother unexpectedly became pregnant. The news came as a shock to everyone, including my parents who had long given up hope of conceiving. Their joy was immediate and obvious. I noticed how my maternal grandparents reacted to the news, calling it a miracle and suddenly becoming more interested in visiting our home. I started having nightmares about being sent back to the hospital. One morning, after waking up crying, my parents sat me down and assured me that I would always be their first daughter. Dad emphasized that family isn't about blood, but about love. Mom suggested I could help decorate the nursery and become a big sister. The idea of having a sibling eventually grew on me. Hannah was born in spring. I remember standing on my tiptoes beside the hospital bed to see her tiny face. Dad lifted me up so I could get a better look, and Mom showed me how to support her head properly when holding her. For the first few years, Hannah followed me everywhere. She wanted to wear the same clothes, play the same games, and sit beside me during meals. I taught her how to tie her shoes and ride a bike. Something changed after Hannah turned 5. My maternal grandparents began taking her for weekend visits without me. When she returned, she would look at me differently and avoid playing with me. Once, while coloring together, she suddenly asked, "Is it true you're not really my sister?" I didn't know how to respond and told Mom about it later. She dismissed it as a misunderstanding and said she would talk to Hannah. The incident started small. My homework assignments disappeared from my backpack. My favorite sweater went missing before school picture day. When I mentioned these things to my parents, they suggested I was becoming forgetful or disorganized. Then I noticed my toothbrush was wet every morning, even though I hadn't used it yet. I started keeping it in my bedroom instead of the bathroom. One day after school, I found Hannah in my room applying my new makeup all over her face and the carpet. When I asked what she was doing, she smirked and continued rubbing eyeshadow into the rug. I called for Mom, who came upstairs and gasped at the destruction. Nearly $200 worth of products I had saved for months to buy were ruined. I was just playing, Hannah said. Mom sighed and told me not to overreact about just makeup while helping Hannah clean her face. When I pressed further, Hannah finally admitted between sobs that she had also been the one taking my things and using my toothbrush to clean the toilet. Mom seemed shocked and asked her why. "Grandma says she's not really my sister," Hannah blurted out. "She says Sophie doesn't belong in our family and gets too much attention. Grandma says you and Dad spend too much money on her when it should be saved for me." Mom paled and immediately called Hannah's grandparents. I couldn't hear the conversation, but afterward, Mom explained that her parents were old-fashioned and that Hannah shouldn't listen to everything they said. She promised to limit Hannah's unsupervised visits with them. Dad wanted to cut contact completely when he found out, but Mom convinced him that would be too extreme. Despite Mom's promises, nothing really changed. Hannah continued visiting our grandparents alone, and her behavior toward me worsened. By high school, she openly mocked my appearance in front of my friends. She accidentally spilled drinks on my homework and borrowed clothes without permission, returning them damaged. Dad consistently defended me and disciplined Hannah, while Mom made excuses for her behavior. "She's just going through a phase," became Mom's standard response. Meanwhile, I withdrew and focused on academics, spending more time with my friends and less time at home. When I left for college, things improved simply because of distance. I visited during holidays but otherwise stayed on campus, working part-time and focusing on my degree. After graduation, I moved to a different city for a job opportunity and only saw my family during major holidays. During one Thanksgiving visit, I brought my boyfriend Thomas to meet everyone. Hannah, then 20, spent the entire evening touching his arm while talking, sitting unnecessarily close to him on the couch, and asking if he wanted to see her apartment. When Thomas excused himself to use the bathroom, Hannah followed him into the hallway. Later, Thomas told me she had slipped him her phone number and suggested they get together sometime without the baggage. When I confronted her, she laughed and said, "Don't be so sensitive, it's not apologize." She refused, saying I was overreacting as usual. Mom stayed silent throughout the exchange. Thomas and I left early, and after that, I limited my visits even further. 2 years ago, my maternal grandparents organized a family cruise to celebrate their 50th wedding anniversary. Every family member received an invitation except me. Dad immediately declined to attend, which sparked an argument between my parents. Hannah accused Dad of always taking Sophie's side and insisted he should come without me since I probably wouldn't want to be trapped on a boat with the family anyway. Dad held firm in his decision. Mom and Hannah went on the cruise without him. Afterward, Hannah posted dozens of photos tagged "real family vacation" and "blood is thicker than water." I blocked her on social media after that. Through therapy and the support of Thomas, now my husband, I gradually learned to set boundaries. When Hannah made snide comments about my career, house, or relationship, I responded firmly instead of withdrawing. This clearly surprised her, as she was used to me staying quiet. During one family dinner, when she remarked that my promotion was probably due to affirmative action for orphans, I replied that at least I had a career path, unlike someone who had changed majors 3 times and still worked part-time at a mall kiosk. She stormed out, and Mom followed to console her. Dad and I finished dinner alone, and he told me he was proud of me for standing up for myself. That night, I overheard my parents arguing about Hannah's behavior and Mom's continued defense of it. 5 months ago, I discovered I was pregnant. Thomas and I had been trying for almost a year, so the news brought us immense joy. We told my parents over dinner, and they reacted with excitement. Even Mom seemed genuinely happy. Dad immediately started making plans to convert his home workshop into a nursery for when we visited with the baby. Hannah, meanwhile, had married a man named Parker 2 years ago in a ceremony I wasn't invited to attend. From what I gathered, through family conversations, their relationship had always been rocky. Hannah frequently complained about Parker to Mom, who then relayed these issues to me despite my lack of interest in Hannah's marital problems. Last month, I decided to host a gender reveal party. Juice, a small gathering with close friends and family where we would cut into a colored cake. Thomas's parents were flying in for the occasion, and my father's side of the family had all confirmed their attendance. My mother initially offered to help with preparations but became increasingly distant as the date approached. 3 days before the party, Mom called. Her voice sounded strained as she explained that Hannah was going through a difficult time and had moved back home temporarily. According to Mom, Parker had misunderstood a situation and was now filing for divorce. Given these circumstances, Mom suggested that I postpone my gender reveal party, as it would be insensitive to celebrate while Hannah was suffering. I explained that invitations had been sent, people were traveling to attend, and the bakery order was confirmed. Moreover, my pregnancy had nothing to do with Hannah's marital problems. Mom became insistent, saying family should support each other during crises and that I was being selfish by proceeding with my plans. Hannah needs everyone's support right now, she said. You can always have your party later when things settle down. I refused to cancel, suggesting that if Hannah felt uncomfortable, perhaps she and Mom could skip the event. This response apparently offended Mom, who hung up after saying I had always lacked empathy. The morning of the party, I received a group text from Mom addressed to all guests. She explained that due to a family emergency, my gender reveal party was canceled until further notice. She apologized for the inconvenience and promised updates about rescheduling. I had received no prior notification of this decision. When I called Mom, she arrived at my house 30 minutes later, explaining she had saved me from embarrassment. According to her, celebrating a pregnancy while Hannah was dealing with divorce would appear tasteless to extended family. She described my gender reveal as a trivial event that could easily be postponed to accommodate Hannah's emotional needs. For the first time in my life, I asked my mother to leave my house immediately. She seemed shocked by my reaction and attempted to justify her decision further, but I opened the front door and waited silently until she left. Thomas came home early from work after I called him. While explaining what happened, I received a text from Hannah telling me to stop being a drama queen about a stupid party and to consider how difficult her life was right now. She added that Mom was just trying to protect the family's reputation and that I should keep certain details private. That evening, I learned from my father that Hannah's divorce was not due to a misunderstanding as Mom had claimed. Parker had returned home early from a business trip and found Hannah in bed with her former college boyfriend. Dad had only recently discovered the truth himself and was furious with both Hannah for her infidelity and Mom for misrepresenting the situation. After consulting with Thomas, I composed an email. I addressed it to everyone who had been invited to the gender reveal party, explaining that contrary to my mother's message, I had not agreed to cancel the event. I detailed how Mom had taken this action without my knowledge or consent because Hannah was going through a divorce after being caught cheating on her husband. I ended by announcing that the gender reveal would be rescheduled and hosted by Thomas's parents at their home the following weekend, and that my mother and sister were not welcome to attend. Within minutes of sending the email, my phone began ringing with calls from Mom and Hannah. I silenced it and went to bed. The next morning, I had 17 voice messages and over 30 texts demanding I fix the situation and send a retraction email claiming my previous message was sent in anger and contained fabrications. I did not respond to any of these communications. Instead, Thomas and I proceeded with planning the rescheduled event with his parents. My father called to say he fully supported my decision and would attend the new party. He also mentioned that things at home had become increasingly tense, with Hannah blaming me for ruining her reputation, and Mom torn between defending Hannah and recognizing the inappropriateness of canceling my event. The rescheduled gender reveal party took place without incident. We discovered we're having a girl. Thomas's family, my father, and friends from both sides created a warm, supportive atmosphere. Several of my cousins from my father's side attended and expressed their disappointment in my mother's actions. A week later, Dad called to tell me that Hannah's ex-boyfriend, the one she had been caught with, was actually married with 2 children. His wife had discovered the affair and contacted Parker with evidence dating back months. The situation had become public knowledge among their social circle, and Hannah blamed me entirely for exposing her initial infidelity. claiming I had ruined her chance at reconciliation with Parker. Furthermore, Dad had given Hannah an ultimatum: either find her own apartment or commit to therapy and apologize to me. Hannah chose to move out, apparently staying with friends temporarily while accusing Dad of picking the adopted kid over his real daughter. Mom has attempted to contact me several times, though her messages focus primarily on how I've damaged her relationship with Hannah rather than acknowledging how her actions hurt me. She maintains that canceling my party was the right decision, given the circumstances, and that I overreacted by exposing Hannah's infidelity. Dad visits regularly now, sometimes staying for dinner and helping Thomas prepare the nursery. He recently mentioned that while he and Mom are still together, their relationship has been strained by these events. He doesn't anticipate divorce, but has made it clear to Mom that her treatment of me over the years has damaged their marriage. As for me, I've decided to limit contact with both Mom and Hannah going forward. I don't want my daughter exposed to the same dynamics I experienced growing up. Thomas fully supports this decision. My due date is approaching quickly. Thomas and I have completed childbirth classes and finalized the nursery. We've chosen a name, but are keeping it private until she's born. Dad has already purchased a small bookshelf and filled it with children's books for his future granddaughter. Update 1. It's been 6 weeks since my last post. My daughter Lily was born 2 weeks ago. Healthy and perfect in every way. The birth went smoothly and we came home after 2 days in the hospital. Thomas took paternity leave and has been incredible with night feedings and diaper changes. Dad was our first visitor at the hospital. He brought a handmade wooden music box that plays a lullaby when wound. He sat in the hospital chair holding Lily for hours. Thomas's parents arrived the next day with more practical gifts: diapers, wipes, and freezer meals. Mom showed up unannounced on our 3rd day home. She brought an expensive designer outfit for Lily, size 6 to 12 months, not newborn, and acted as if nothing had happened between us. She attempted to take Lily from my arms without asking, insisting she knew better how to hold a baby since she'd actually given birth. Thomas intervened and suggested Mom should have called before visiting. She left shortly after, texting later that I had turned my husband against her. Hannah has not reached out directly but sent a generic congratulations card with no personal message. According to Dad, she's been staying with our maternal grandparents, who continue to criticize my vendetta against the family. They did not acknowledge Lily's birth. My paternal grandparents, now in their 80s, made the journey to meet their great-granddaughter. My grandmother brought the baby quilt she had made for me when I was adopted, freshly cleaned and restored. She told me she had always saved it, hoping I would use it for my own child someday. Dad mentioned that Mom has been attending individual counseling at his insistence. She apparently recognizes some problematic patterns in her relationship with Hannah but still struggles to understand my perspective. He recognizes that years of enabling Hannah's behavior won't change overnight. Thomas returns to work next month. My company offers remote work options for new parents, so I'll be working from home part-time starting in a few weeks. We found a daycare for when I return to the office, though that won't be until Lily is at least 6 months old. For now, we're establishing our new routine as a family of 3. Thomas's mother visits weekly to help with laundry and meal prep. Dad comes by every few days, always calling first to check if it's convenient. Update 2. 4 months have passed since Lily's birth. She's growing quickly and recently started rolling over. Her smile lights up the room, especially when she sees her grandfather or Thomas return from work. Last month, I received an unexpected email from Parker, Hannah's ex-husband. He thanked me for being honest about the circumstances of their divorce, explaining that Hannah and my mother had been spreading a narrative that he was abusive and unfaithful. My email to the family had inadvertently cleared his name among mutual acquaintances. He wished me well with my new family and apologized for any stress the situation had caused during my pregnancy. 2 weeks ago, Mom showed up at our door again, this time with Hannah. They wanted to clear the air and meet Lily properly. Hannah immediately commented that Lily looked nothing like me with an odd emphasis that felt intentional. Mom nudged her and gave a forced smile. The visit was tense. Hannah spent most of the time on her phone while Mom tried to make conversation about neutral topics. When Lily began fussing, Hannah remarked, "She's so whiny. I guess that runs in your side," looking directly at me. Thomas, who had been giving them a chance out of respect for family reconciliation, immediately stood up and suggested it was time for them to leave as Lily needed her nap. After they left, we received a group text from Mom claiming we had been hostile and unwelcoming during what was meant to be a peacemaking visit. She demanded an apology for Thomas's rude behavior in asking them to leave. We did not respond. Dad later informed us that Hannah has been dating her former college boyfriend, the married man, openly since his divorce finalized. Our maternal grandparents apparently see nothing wrong with this relationship, despite how it began. Dad seems increasingly frustrated with the situation, but maintains contact with Mom and Hannah while keeping firm boundaries. Thomas and I have decided to move forward with buying a house in a neighboring town with better schools. The commute will be longer for both of us, but the community has excellent educational programs and more family-friendly amenities. Dad has already offered to help with the move and renovations to the new place. My relationship with Mom and Hannah remains distant. They send occasional texts about mundane matters but never acknowledge the underlying issues. I respond politely but briefly to Mom and rarely engage with Hannah at all. This arrangement, while not ideal, seems the most manageable for maintaining my well-being and focusing on Lily's needs. Update 3. Lily just turned 1 year old. We celebrated with a small party at our new house. Dad helped Thomas set up a swing set in the backyard as Lily's birthday present. My paternal grandparents sent a package of children's books and a savings bond for her education. Thomas's family drove up for the weekend and stayed in our newly finished guest room. Mom sent a gift but didn't attend, claiming she had a prior commitment. I later learned from my cousin that Mom had posted photos of herself at a spa that day. Hannah sent nothing and made no acknowledgement of Lily's birthday. Two significant developments have occurred in the past few months. First, Dad has moved out of the family home and into his own apartment. He explained that after multiple failed attempts at couples counseling, he realized the marriage had become irreparably damaged. The final straw came when he discovered Mom had been secretly sending money to Hannah to fund a cosmetic procedure, while claiming they couldn't afford to fix the roof leak in their house. He emphasized that his decision wasn't solely about my situation with Mom and Hannah, but rather the culmination of decades of similar patterns. Second, Hannah announced her engagement to her former boyfriend, the previously married man. They planned to marry at an expensive resort next summer, with our maternal grandparents covering most costs. Hannah called me directly for the first time in years, not to reconcile but to inform me that I would not be receiving an invitation. She explained this was because my presence would make her uncomfortable on her special day. I wished her well and ended the call. Mom contacted me afterward, insisting I should be more supportive of Hannah despite not being invited to the wedding. She suggested I send an expensive gift as a gesture of goodwill. When I declined, explaining that I wouldn't send a gift to an event I wasn't welcome to attend, she accused me of being petty and holding grudges. Dad visits twice weekly, sometimes staying for dinner or taking Lily to the park. He's rented a 2-bedroom apartment so that when Lily grows up, she has her own space when she stays with him. Thomas and Dad have developed their own friendship, often working on house projects together, or watching sports after Lily goes to bed.